Thanks for joining us. A civilian bystander killed during Monday's shooting incident in Montreal has been laid to rest. Michel Mizrahi was one of 3 killed in an incident between police and a gunman in the Côte-des-Neiges community. At his funeral, Mizrahi's son Shlomo said his father was a positive person who always put others before himself. The funeral service for Montreal police officer Mohamed Lamine Benradouane, who was also killed in the shooting, will be held this evening. In Toronto, a funeral service was held Wednesday for slain police constable Mark Pinizotto. He was shot and killed on June 11th while executing a search warrant with the Emergency Task Force in North York.
Never in a million years did I think you'd pass away so soon, but I miss you so much. Even though you're not here physically, the impact that you had on my life is always here, and the legacy that you left behind lives forever. Something that has stood out to me in our memories were our daddy-daughter dates. We used to get Starbucks and talk about life, and you would just listen to me rant about everything and anything. Even though I can still talk to you, it's not the same. And the part that hurts me the most is that I won't get to experience hugging you again or holding your hand again.
I know my dad wouldn't want me to be too sad, so thank you, Dad. You took all the days of my life working to be the best father I could ask for, so now it's your turn to rest. Rest easy, Dad. I love you.
The man accused of shooting Pinizotto is 19-year-old Nicholas Bennett. He was shot and injured by police and remains in a hospital. 2 Arctic roads and a nuclear waste repository in Ontario are the first 3 projects the federal government wants designated as being in the national interest. A trio of federal ministers made the announcement Wednesday in Yellowknife. They are seeking national interest status for the Grays Bay Road and Port Project, the Mackenzie Valley Highway Project, and the Nuclear Waste Management Organization's Geological Repository.
The Grays Bay Road and Port Project will help establish Canada's first overland connection to a deep water port on the Arctic Ocean. Transport Canada has committed more than $21 million toward planning, environmental assessments, and other pre-construction activities needed to advance the project. And once completed, this year-round transportation link will improve access to global markets, support responsible resource development, and strengthen the infrastructure needed to foster economic growth and prosperity across the North.
And that word was repository, not respiratory. Federal officials say the timeline to begin construction on Grays Bay is not until 2029, while the final leg of the Mackenzie Valley Highway could begin construction in 2028. Officials say they're looking at a 2030 timeline for the nuclear waste repository. A poll commissioned by the Calgary Chamber of Commerce suggests almost half of its members are prepared to move their businesses out of Alberta if the province votes to separate from Canada. Probe Research conducted the online survey of 137 chamber members earlier this month. It shows 48% of Calgary Chamber members' respondents are very or somewhat likely to leave the province and relocate their business if Alberta votes to begin the separation process. 39% are unlikely to relocate and 13% are unsure. The poll comes as Albertans prepare for an October vote on 10 referendum questions, including one on whether the province should remain in Canada or begin the process of holding a separation referendum at a later date. 63% of respondents report that the discussions around separatism are having a negative effect on their business. And while we're talking about Calgary, City Council there has decided not to change any of their rules for Stampede Festival. Premier Danielle Smith has told the city to reconsider bylaws that would cap noise levels and force concerts to end earlier. But last night, by a vote of 9-6, Council decided not to make any changes. Festival tents during the Stampede will need to end their shows by midnight on weekdays with a 5 decibel cut cut to noise levels compared with last year. When U.S. President Donald Trump first slapped tariffs on Canada, we were all told to buy Canadian. Well, a new survey from TD shows Albertans are embracing that even more than they did last year. TD's Associate Vice President of Remote Channels and Distribution Strategy, Andrew Braun, says 79% of Albertans are planning to support local or Canadian businesses this summer, and small businesses can take advantage.
What is interesting there is that it's gone past that, because almost half of that number are looking to support even more than they were thinking last year, when the tariffs were more in the news and we were more focused on that aspect. So, I think it's good news for Albertans, and it's good news for Albertan businesses. And as we think about businesses and as we think about how they plan for this season, that's the other thing that we wanted to kind of talk through is, the businesses, this for them is an opportunity to capitalize and support to accept this support. And the things they want to do is just kind of plan for it and think about it, really make sure they consider how they can attract Canadians and Albertans to their business. And the other thing for them to think about, they face similar cost implications. They're feeling the same, so they'll really want to plan. But the other really nice thing about this is an opportunity to have potentially repeat business, because if you're having locals coming out more often, you may have a chance to increase your repeat business.
The survey also shows the Buy Canadian approach is shaping travel decisions this summer. 78% of Alberta travelers say they plan to stay within Canada, including 44% traveling within the province and 56% traveling to other parts of the country. Only 13% say they plan to travel to the United States. And speaking of travel, it was wheels up for the last time today in two southern Alberta communities, leaving passengers there without many options for commercial flights. WestJet's final departures from Lethbridge and Medicine Hat on Wednesday morning will result in empty terminals at each airport as both cities contend with how to bring commercial air service back. BCN's Landon Hickok has more on that story.
Passengers arrived at YQL early Wednesday morning to catch the last departure flight to Calgary, some even flying exactly for that reason. Now, travelers will be waiting indefinitely for any future flights, and if any airline is willing to take a chance on Lethbridge.
Lots of conversations are continually happening with other airlines. WestJet pulling out it's frustrating, of course, but it's multiple different communities across the country. It's not just Lethbridge. We saw Medicine Hat. They find that it doesn't work for them, but there's obviously somebody that will find that it will work for them, and so we'll continue to work with other airlines, and we are doing that now to make sure that we can try to find something that not just for business, but for leisure as well, out of Lethbridge.
Both cities say they're focused on attracting new airlines and passenger services, with the provincial government releasing an expression of interest for carriers who could provide regular services. WestJet notified each city its intent to suspend service back in February of this year. For the city of Medicine Hat, they say they've already spoken with more than a dozen airlines.
Our city has been working so hard to make sure that that's exactly what's happening. Our airport has done some research and produced some market data out there to make sure that we maintain air service and connecting with different carriers around our region. There are so many interests, and that's something that we're constantly working on.
According to city data, the region generates over 700,000 air trips per year within 150 kilometers of Medicine Hat. A survey of residents expressed that 94% of them valued local air service. And in 2019, YXH served about 75,000 passengers, a number just over the city's population, in a year within 50 weekly flights.
We see that the airport generates about 16 million in GDP each year to be able to support the region, and supports about 135 jobs. So, when you look at it, the airport plays a key role in this region, so that's why we're trying to make sure that we maintain that.
The Lethbridge Airport expects it will remain busy with 98% of its flight activity not involving WestJet services. Medicine Hat Airport is home to the Halo Air Ambulance, and both airports host their own flight schools. The province's expression of interest is accepting carrier submissions by early July, with the plan to underwrite airlines who agreed to come and return passenger service back to southern Alberta. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Thank you, Landon. Lethbridge City Council has unanimously approved the city's 2027 operational budget. It took some 40 revisions to get the final document. Residents are looking at a 2.67% increase to the municipal portion of their property taxes, which is a little less than 2024, 2025, and 2026, when the average increase was 2.8% over the 3 years. Mayor Blaine Higgins says the spending plan contains minimal reductions in services and aligns with the city's 2026 to 2029 strategic plan. Council is expected to discuss the city's 2027 to 30 capital plan in the latter part of this year. In other city-related news, Lethbridge has received more than $2.7 million in provincial and federal funding to support local programs. Most of the money will go toward high-risk youth prevention. The rest will support the city's integrated encampment response. The city says it secured all external funding with no extra impact on municipal property taxes.
It's allowing us to have more resources, so more people in positions. We run a pretty lean program here in Lethbridge with our Building Safer Communities team that work with high-risk youth, as well as our encampment and outreach, which means that through summer months in particular, when holidays and other things come into play, we want to make sure that the programming and the service delivery for the community is consistent. And so having more people in those positions allows us to do that, which just means that, again, if we set a high standard for how we're responding, that it can be expected that happens throughout the entire year.
The Alberta government is providing $800,000 a year over the next 3 years for integrated encampment response, while the federal government is providing more than $228,000 through the Reaching Home program. Lethbridge residents had the chance to give their gardens a boost while supporting environmental sustainability during the city's free compost and mulch giveaway event. Organized by the Waste and Environment Department, the initiative aims to help residents prepare their gardens and reduce waste.
I think these programs are really important because it just helps the community, and especially if somebody's starting or doesn't have the means to get compost or anything like that. It's nice that the city can share. I want to put it around my trees and to use some of the mulch for around the trees, and just to throw on the lawn, some compost for the lawn. I mean, anybody can come and take a little bit of what goes into the compost.
This is my first time coming to one of these things. My mom has a garden, so she comes to get things like that for her garden anytime she can, so I'm here to help. I'm not really good at planting, I'm not good at gardening, but I like being here with her, so it's good to help people, and I think it's great to be able to support people that are trying to grow things and help the environment.
Residents were allowed to take a maximum of 40 liters of compost and 40 liters of mulch per household. Although summer officially arrived on the calendar on Sunday, in many parts of the country it feels like summer has been delayed. Rainy, cool weather in June has left many wondering when we'll see the sunny days and warmer temperatures we're usually promised this time of year. Well, Europeans are not wondering. France has recorded its hottest day ever amid an exceptional heat wave in Europe. The National Weather Agency says France's national thermal indicator hit a new record of 29.8 degrees Celsius on Tuesday, breaking records set back in August of 2003 and July of 2019. Daytime highs above 40 degrees Celsius were also recorded in many individual weather stations. And as we learn in this report, people living in Paris in attic apartments with zinc roofs are sweltering.
So behind me, is the iconic skyline of Paris with these grey roofs that just stretch as far as the eye can see. Maybe it conjures up images for you of Emily in Paris, or perhaps Remy, the cartoon rat, running across the rooftops as he chases his dream of being a Parisian chef. But what maybe looks like a dream is a real nightmare when it comes to a heatwave, because the attic apartments, they are roasting hot, the sun baking down on them all day. So Emily and Francesco have kindly invited us into their little apartment. It's 14 square meters and it's just underneath the roofs of Paris. And suffice to say, they've been telling us that in an interview we're all now desperate to go and have a swim or a cold shower, about how difficult it's been during this heat wave to live in underneath these iconic roofs of Paris. There's 130,000 roofs in Paris and nearly 3/4 of them are covered with zinc. It's a metal that's very resistant. It can be recycled, but it also traps and it transfers the heat to little apartments like this, the attic apartments of Paris. Now out here in the sun, the thermometer's giving me a reading of 34 degrees. That's approaching about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But let's see what happens when we put it on some zinc and see whether that reading changes. Wow, look at that. 43, 44, 45. Now I've left this up here for a couple of minutes and we're up to 48 degrees Celsius. Let's see what that is in Fahrenheit. 118, nearly 119 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's not even the hottest part of the day.
Ooh, that's a scorcher. Still not as hot as Vegas, though.
Sean Haney here with relocating.com. Saskatchewan's battle against a surging Richardson ground squirrel population is entering a highly regulated new phase. Agriculture Minister David Merritt has announced that distribution of 2% liquid strychnine has officially begun across the province under a strict new strychnine stewardship program. The rollout follows a hard-fought emergency use registration approved by Health Canada, allowing temporary access to the chemical only until November of 2027. Under this framework, 195 rural Saskatchewan municipalities have registered as licensed distributors. However, the province is cautioning farmers that midsummer application is heavily discouraged as abundant green vegetation drastically reduces bait efficacy. The next recommended application window runs from July 15th through September 1st. To maintain access, producers must complete mandatory online training, conduct rigorous in-field species at risk assessments, and execute a strict 4-week carcass monitoring protocol to prevent the primary or secondary poisoning of non-target wildlife. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with realagriculture.com.
As soccer fans in Lethbridge and across Canada cheered on their favorite teams, a new analysis estimates a $70 million boost to Vancouver's local economy for each additional match Canada plays in soccer's FIFA World Cup. BMO Economics says a potential economic bump would be largely tied to bars, restaurants, and watch parties. It suggests the tournament overall is expected to generate up to $6.5 billion in incremental gross domestic product. Economists Sal Guattieri says if Canada continues to win, estimates could skew to the higher end of that range. Canada has managed to advance to the knockout round of the World Cup for the first time ever, despite a 2-1 loss to Switzerland this afternoon. They will play the runner-up from Group A Sunday in Los Angeles. From smart rings that track sleep to refrigerators that recognize food and suggest recipes, Samsung is using AI to connect more of its products together. At Viva Tech 2026, the tech giant showcased how health data, household appliances, and mobile devices are increasingly being linked through a single platform.
And connected care is a world where everything around you, especially from the Samsung ecosystem, might it be your smartphone, your watch, even your refrigerator, your home appliances, and your TV are all connected together through, for example, Samsung Health, our AI-powered platform around wellness and health. This idea of connected care is also towards connected devices such as our connected fridges. So basically it's powered by AI thanks to a partnership with Google, and it can recognize up to more than 2,000 vegetable, fruits and other types of food and can then recommend you recipes, can also add some food to your shopping lists, and can also warn you if some food is about to expire, and so that you don't waste food, for example.
Pretty cool. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 191 points on the day to 34,927. The Dow was up 182 to 51,848. The S&P 500 was down 7 points to 7358. And the Nasdaq was down 110 points to finish at 25,476. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 337 to 69.83 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 8 cents to 3.22 US. Gold was down 114.83 to 39.9878 US an ounce, and silver was down 4.14 to 57.41 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.14 per bushel. Barley is at $6.53. Canola is at $16.66, and corn is at $7.36 per bushel. Live cattle were up 85 cents to $256. Feeder cattle August contract was up $4.77 to $372.92. Lean hogs July contract was down 37 cents to $93.85. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 70.30 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, the daughter of a Toronto police officer fatally shot during a police raid says that he was the building blocks to her life. During his funeral today, Daniela Pinizotto says she will miss her father-daughter dates and being able to hold her dad's hand. Constable Mark Pinizotto was shot on June the 11th while carrying out a search at an apartment building as part of an investigation into multiple shootings. Pinizotto is one of 4 police officers in Canada killed on the job in recent weeks. As the cost of living continues to rise for Canadians, one would hope the federal government would be prudent with spending hard-earned tax dollars. According to Franco Terrazzano, federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Ottawa's spending has Canada drowning deeper into debt. What he has to share is eye-opening. Stay with us to find out more. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and poll questions.